Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect together all the albums that I purchased over the past week. I've got 17 of them to go through with you. A lot of great music here. I get it from different places. My local record store like Sound Exchange, you guys see me go there a lot. I also order stuff online from Amazon, eBay, and other different places like that. So I got a nice collection of stuff. I've always got something coming in, which is a lot of fun, as you guys know, getting stuff in the mail or going to your local stores and finding stuff. Always a lot of fun. So I got cool things to go through with you guys. We'll do that here in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel, so I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you turn on notifications, you're going to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with New Music Finds. Hopefully with these kind of episodes, it gives you guys an idea of what's out there, maybe something you didn't know that was getting released new, or some old catalog album that you'd completely forgotten about you can pull out of your collection and listen to. So all in all, just meant to be a good, fun video that sparks some interest and we can have some fun with. So as I always do, I like to start off with new releases from this past Friday, August 18th. Aerosmith put out a new compilation simply called Greatest Hits. Just like the original one from 1980, they stole the name from that. Interesting thing is, while that one is a Columbia Records only catalog release, this one does have both Columbia and Geffen Records, the two different labels that they have been on in their career. But the 18 tracks that are on this, there's a single CD and there is a double CD version of this. I picked up this one, which has 18 tracks, a full 80 minutes, but nothing new, nothing revelatory. So no new recorded songs for their 50th anniversary, which they're celebrating. Kind of a bummer. They also don't put anything on here past 9 lives in terms of their albums. They do end it with the song I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from the Armageddon soundtrack. But all in all, this only covers the first 25 years of their career. So where's the other 25? A little bit of a letdown regarding that, but it sounds great. They use single edits on a lot of the tracks, so it flows really well, really fast. Nothing really has a time to dip down. It's just boom, 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 hit on this thing after hit. And it's a nice overview of the band. If you're a casual fan, this is going to be perfect. If you're a diehard like me, it probably doesn't matter a whole lot to you, but I got to have it in the collection. So that's why I picked up the single CD and I didn't go for the triple on it. And I have done a full review of that. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. I go into more detail on this, the 3 CD edition, but also I do a full comparison of this with 7 other compilations I've got from Aerosmith and pick my favorite one at the end in case that's of interest to you. All right, the reason I'm wearing my Pink Floyd Animal shirt is we have a remix album from Richard Wright, Wet Dream. It's 45th anniversary edition, so 1978 album. It's got new album art on it. This is the original one here, and there's what it looks like. And you do get that art on the inside of this thing here. I always liked this. This was good, but I have to say it never struck me. I had actually owned the album 2 different times, and I'll have to say that it was all right, but it didn't really grab me. Not exactly sure what has been done new to this, but this one here finally grabbed me. Could just be age, could just be that I am now much more into what he was doing back in 78 solo-wise. But for me, I actually think this sounds very much like Floyd, at least of the later day stuff that they did like Endless River and of course on Division Bell. So if that sounds of interest to you, it's got a Steven Wilson remix, so he's been doing a lot of different things with prog bands and so forth. This is very cool. I highly recommend it. I've been digging it. Again, much like this, which I did listen to a bunch of times and was kind of surprised I enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought this would be a single listen to and go on the wall, and I've done multiple listens to this. So both of these were a bit of a surprise and nice in and of that to get something that I was just buying for collection purposes turn out to be good listens as well. Dead Daisies put out a 2 CD compilation, a best of, featuring 2 unreleased songs that are both ones with Glenn Hughes on it. Even though John Corabi is now back in the band, Glenn Hughes left to go record new stuff with Black Country Communion. The band didn't want to wait, so they asked John Corabi to come back, which I think is fantastic. I think John Corabi is the right vocalist for the band. Nothing out of the ordinary or new with this other than those 2 unreleased tracks, but it is a great collection of material from them if you don't have all of their albums already, or like me, sometimes you just want that overview. Now, not a new thing, but a reissue here. I talked about this in what just dropped, because when I go through in that episode, I'm not only talking about stuff like this, which I bought, and I showed you these guys in the actual video, but then when I'm going through the Amazon releases, new releases, and I pull stuff up on the iPad to show you, I found this one, Mr. Big. Now, this is not the American band, this is the British band. This is from the 1970s, so not the band from the late 80s and early 90s. This is a 3 CD compilation of their 3 original albums from 76 to 78. They only released these 2 originally, and then this one didn't get a release until like 2001 because it was shelved, seppuku, but it finally did. I gotta say, I had never really listened to them, didn't know much about them. I just knew the name and the reference. I did a little bit of a listen. It was kind of interesting, and I decided, hey, what the heck? I love 1970s era music. I'll pick it up. And I gotta say, first of all, it's very quirky. It's pop rock. Each song has a very unique sound to it. It's sort of gimmicky rock, as I like to call it. I don't mean any of this negatively. Like the Sweet, or Slade, you know, where there was something sort of gimmicky about each song that they would do, whether it was how they wrote it, named it, sung it, sound instruments that were in it, whatever. I put this on, and the first, listen of it, you're kind of like, wait, what's going on? And why does the style keep changing? They got a little bit of every style, in their first album. I really dug it, though. It was a cool listen. So I ended up listening to all 3 albums all the way through, just absolutely digging it. I don't know why these guys didn't hit and weren't bigger, but if you've never checked out the 1970s British band Mr. Big, I highly recommend it. This was such a fun listen. All right, I've still got, that was the first 4 things there, and I said I've got 17, so I've got 13 more here to go through with you, and we'll try and speed this up. You guys have seen I've been collecting and buying all the Frankie Miller stuff I can get my hands on, and I finally got this one, Standing on the Edge, his 1982 album. I have all the albums that are prior to this, and I've actually ordered the album that comes out after this, and I'm just waiting on that one, but I was so glad to find this. They're out of print, they're high priced. I think I got this one in the mid $20 range. It was still sealed in plastic. It's got bonus tracks on it, 4 live tracks on here, including the song Bad Case of Loving You. And I thought that was, I don't know, some old 1950s song that had been re-recorded by Robert Palmer, who had a hit with it. But in fact, when I looked it up to see who had done it, it was this artist, Moon Martin, and a song from either the late 70s, like 78 or so. And he didn't have a hit with it, but he gave it to Robert Palmer, and Palmer had a hit with it. So I checked out Moon Martin, and I've never heard of this guy or anything, but I did recognize the way that he writes his name. And so I ended up picking up 2. And when I say the way, it was this logo that I recognized, having seen it on vinyl at some record shows. But I picked up 2 of his albums. Now, neither of these have that song because it was on his debut album. But also, this album here had a couple songs co-written with Frankie Miller and Moon Martin on it, and the song Fire in Line. So it just really made me interested in Moon Martin, and I picked these up, and I absolutely love them. They were fantastic, sort of 78 into the early 80s, kind of on the border edge of the New Romantics or New Wave or that sort of sound style of stuff that was going on at the time, but pretty cool. And just staying on that 1980s kick, I picked up Southern Rockers' Doc Holliday, but their 3rd album, this one here called Modern Medicine. And I have the first 2 from Rock Candy Records, which are all out Southern rock. This one though turns up the keyboards and everything in it. I had seen this on some lists in terms of disco flavored rock albums. I don't actually hear any disco in it, I just hear the 1980s style keyboards. But you know me, I love that sort of stuff. This is not going to appeal to Southern rock fans, this particular one. The first two Doc Holliday albums will. But I love the bands, you know, the established bands that decided to integrate some 80s sound with the keyboards and synthesizers and stuff. And that's just another great one there. And while I was on that whole kick, having done the top 10 disco flavored rock albums countdown with you guys, I went ahead and one of the other bands that had popped up a couple times in there was Eloy. And this is a German band, and this album in particular, Performance, was the one that everyone referenced as being disco flavored. And again, I gotta say, I don't really hear the disco sound, I just hear a lot of synthesizer in it, but I loved it, so I picked this one up. I also picked up Time to Turn. So I'd gotten these two here, got those from Sound Exchange, my local record store, but then I ordered online one from the 70s, Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes. And I found out there's some of this stuff, you know, these reissues have got a few bonus tracks. The packaging's done really well. The booklets have historical write-ups of the bands and stuff like that. So I may be picking up some more of their stuff, but I got 3 of their albums in my collection. I was completely brand new to this band, so it was really fun diving in and getting some new stuff like that. You know, these bands have been around, like Eloy has been around since the late 60s. I think their first album came out in 1970, so 53 years. And even though I had recognized the logo and seen it around, I had never listened to anything, so a completely new source of music for me to jump into. And when I've got over 12,000 CDs in my collection, finding a new band like that is sometimes you know, mind-blowing that I can still find something out there. I was digging into also just straight ahead rock and roll at the same time, so kind of a weird thing this past week where it was, you know, the disco flavored rock and then the straight up 70s era rock. I picked up 2 Ronnie Wood albums, actually the 2 ones that were missing from my collection, so I've now completed my Ronnie Wood collection. I picked up this one in particular because it has the song Take a Look at the Guy, which Izzy Stradlin did on his debut solo album, and so I'd always wanted to get the original version. I liked Izzy Stradlin, guitar player from Guns N' Roses, doing his cover of it, so that was cool. But surprisingly, this album, which I never jumped on, the album cover never kind of grabbed me. I always liked this one better and other ones, and so I grabbed those. This is my favorite album. I ended up loving this. This is fantastic from start to finish. So good. So his debut solo album turned out to be my favorite in the end of the day, which was the last one I bought. Just goes to show you, you can't always judge a book by its cover, because sometimes the one you kind of keep passing by because for whatever reason you don't know any songs, the album cover doesn't speak to you, you know something about another album, so you buy it, could turn out to be the absolute best one, and that was the case there. All right, then this is just really filling a hole back in my collection. Van Halen live Right Here, Right Now. Now this is a jewel case edition. Growing up, I bought this in '93 when it first came out. It was a digipack. At that time, digipacks are rare, so it was cool. At some point, I sold the thing. I don't know why. Part and parcel to the fact that I'm not a big live album fan, but I have to say I do love this one, so why I got rid of that I don't know. Putting it back in the collection, so very cool. But also that's because Van Halen had just announced their new box set, and it's the Van Halen album collection 2, but it's only covering 4 studio albums of the Sammy Hagar era. They are not putting Live Right Here, Right Now in it. So unfortunately, while we're getting all the studio era Van Hagar, we are not getting the live album. I don't know if they're saving for a live album box set that might come later that'll collect the David Lee Roth album with it, or what it's going to do, but right now the remastered of this is only on LP. So once I learned that it wasn't being part of the remastering in the box set, I went ahead and replaced it on CD to put it in the collection and have it that way at least. All right, I got 3 more here to go through. Ones that were new to me, but again, things that I found, like that Mr. Big Box, going through the What Just Dropped stuff, I always find extra stuff that I didn't know was coming out that's interesting. So I found this band, Stone. And this album here, Emotional Playground, 1992, technical thrash as they are referred to, just means that it's a very proficient playing and so forth, kind of proggy thrash, but it's thrash nonetheless. I didn't know anything about this group. I liked the album cover. It was from the era that I like in the very early 90s there. Great album. Those right now, at least on Amazon, are $6.95, all 3 or 4 of their reissues. I just picked up this one for now. So it was totally worth taking a chance on because you probably wouldn't even find it for that cheap of a price if you were finding it used. Another reissue that I got was a group called Alien Force. Kind of a little bit of a cheesy album cover there, a bunch of topless ladies with tattoos of the guys on their arms, but none of them really look like ladies, so just bad drawing or rendering or whatever. But Pain and Pleasure, name of the album. There's the real guys. Has a slipcover on it. It's on, I think it's High Roller Records is the name of the label, HR Records, spell out of it. But again, turned out to be good. It's 1985 or 86 was the release of that, so just some good metal from that era. And then if you remember in, I think it was last week's episode, I had this, the Donner Party, and I had done a Let's Go to the Record Store at Sound Exchange, and when I walk in the store, there's thrash playing overhead for a good portion of the episode. And a lot of you guys asked who it was, so Donner Party. I told you guys in last week's episode, that's a vinyl only release. They are a local New Jersey band from the Wayne, Bloomfield area. Not signed to a major label, so very hard to get their stuff, but you can stream it for sure on Spotify, maybe on some other streaming services. But they do have a CD of an earlier album called Pizza Patrol. When I went back the next week, I found this. In fact, one of the guys that works there held it for me because I was so digging this and asking about a CD edition of it, which they don't have. He found out they had some other CDs and he brought this one in, and then I got that. So if you're like me and you love CDs, Donner Party does have this one. If you want to just check out a cool, very unknown local group of the New Jersey area, Donner Party, just some great thrash, like 1980s era style thrash stuff that's kind of in the vein of Suicidal Tendencies. It's more of that, what I call the do-it-yourself stuff, DRI. It's got some Slayer mix thrown in there, that kind of stuff, but very good stuff. So there you go. There's 17 CD releases that I picked up. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Got, maybe found something new where you're going to dig back into your catalog. So this isn't just about me showing off the stuff that I bought, although I know you guys are interested in that. It's also there to hopefully, create some listening ideas and stuff like that for you. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.